Hey, what's going on, everyone? Axel here. So, today I thought I would talk about the issue of easy XP and running dailies and grinding the XP most efficient quests, and if that's a problem. Um, I was going around the DDO forums this week, and this has been a thread that's been kind of near the top there for a while, and I thought it would be fun and a good video idea for me to just chime in and kind of talk about the whole situation with dailies and grinding, the high XP quests in particular when it comes to epics. And this particular thread, which I'll link down below, it really focused on Wizard King. So, Tomb of the Wizard King. For those of you who don't know, there's a lot of people use Wizard King to kind of run over and over and over because if you have a group, you can split the quest into 3 parts and just go for the optional XP and not complete it. And when you do that, you can reap in a really good amount of XP without even finishing out the quests, and you can just finish the optionals. Everyone can withdraw out of the instance, and you can reset the quest and just keep doing that ad nauseum as much as you want. And because they're optionals, the quest doesn't actually degrade or depreciate. There's no ransack penalty on the optional XP, so you can just keep getting it over and over and over as much as you want. So that's kind of the one issue, and I believe in the past this is something that the developers have mentioned, if my memory serves. They've kind of mentioned it, that they're, hey, we're not touching it right now, but we're kind of looking at it. So from this thread, there's honestly 2 different sides of this and 2 main opinions that I read in. And let's just go ahead and go through them, and I'll dissect them and kind of give my opinion on it when I get more towards the end of the video. But basically, the 2 main arguments when it comes to these high XP quests, and it's not just Wizard King, it's also quests like Spies in the House, or maybe something like Von 5, just these, or something like Jack Gibbers, or something that quest, just the high XP quests that people like to run. When it comes to these kind of quests, the 2 main arguments I see is there's the we shouldn't touch them at all crowd, and then there's the we should rebalance everything to be as equal as possible crowd. So the first argument I see a lot is the don't touch a crowd, which will take the stance of, hey, it's your choice. You already have the choice to play whichever quest you want to play. It's not fair for you to change something that would affect what other people are doing. So stop worrying about what everyone else is doing. It's an optional choice to run these dailies. You don't have to do it. So if you want to not do that, it doesn't affect you. You can play the game however you want. You don't have to run the dailies if you don't want to. And the other kind of argument there is other players will say that, well, if you reduce the XP for these high XP per minute quests, then players will just run the next best XP per minute quests. So that's the first argument. The other argument from the other side of it tends to be that, hey, XP per minute being equal as possible is a good thing, and it's important because it encourages quest diversity, discourages grinding, and overall makes for a more fun game. So let's go ahead and get into the argument number one first, when it comes to the proposition that, hey, it's your choice, you don't have to run it. And with this argument, I would say yes, you do have the choice, but I think that looking at the argument from just the perspective of, hey, it's your choice. If you don't want to run the dailies, you don't have to. I think that's a bit of a I don't know if that's quite a fair way of looking at it, because when you look at it's not an all-encompassing way of looking at least. It's not looking at the whole problem. It's only looking at what's on the surface, and not really paying attention to all the indirect effects that could have. So yeah, I don't have to run dailies, but what are the indirect effects of all this type of mechanic being in the game, or these really high XP per minute quests being so much more rewarding than the others? And what you have to consider is DDO is a game about leveling, so it matters how fun the leveling is. It's not just a matter of, hey, what I do doesn't affect what you do, so just do what you want. It's not. You also have to consider that the game itself is about leveling, and so we want the leveling process to be as fun as possible. And when we have a situation where one way of doing it is a lot more rewarding, Players will do that, even if it's less fun. Even the players aren't having fun doing it. If it's so overwhelmingly rewarding, players will do it anyways at the expense of fun. And I don't think that that's good game design. We should want to have grind, and that's fun to do. Like it should be grind that doesn't feel like a grind. We shouldn't have the best way to advance your character in terms of leveling for past lives or grinding for past lives. It shouldn't be just to run one quest a thousand times. Whether or not you agree with the high XP per minute quest being reduced or not, I think you have to agree at least that it's not optimal for the game to function in a way that we should really encourage you to run one quest 1,000 times. That shouldn't be the most optimal way of doing it. There should at least be really variety should be the best way, right? The variety, running a variety quest should be the highest XP per minute way to advance your character. And I think that everyone can at least agree that variety is better than running the same thing 1,000 times, or at least I hope most people can agree at least on that. So, and the other important thing is in DDO, people play for enjoyment, but also to reach goals. So again, you have to emphasize enjoyment to an extent. It can't just be about, hey, I'm running the quest like this. You do it your way, I do it my way, because being able to encourage game design that actually is fun is important. It's not just a matter of you do what you do and I do what I do. We should want everyone to have fun, because the people that may be choosing to do the most XP per minute things, yeah, maybe they're choosing to do that, but maybe they would also be willing to do something else if it was more fun and they could get the same XP rewards, or at least as competitive XP rewards. So playing for fun and playing for efficiency both matter, but I think everyone can agree that they would want fun to be the overriding factor over efficiency. Just because something's efficient and it's something some people are doing doesn't mean that necessarily that's what they would like to do, or it's their favorite thing to do. They might like something, a different kind of game design better. Okay, I think there's also, like I've kind of been saying, there is a legitimate argument to be made of, like, quote unquote, saving players from themselves, because as I mentioned before, a lot of players, and I've been there too, and I do this, and by the way, I don't think I mentioned this, but I run, like last life, I ran Wizard King and got several levels from just running Wizard King, so I'm not exempt to this. I think I fit this actually perfectly, this kind of quote of saying that we should be trying to save players from themselves in game design, because look, the thing is, like I ran Wizard King and got a few levels from it, but I ran it because it was efficient. Was it fun? Not really. It was just I ran it because I wanted to level up, and it was the most efficient way to do that. And while it was my choice to do that, it would also be nice if the game design itself encouraged me to do it in a way that's both fun and efficient as the most efficient way to do it, right? Like, shouldn't it be a good goal to have variety be encouraged? Like, variety should be the best way to do things. I think that's a good goal to have. I think everyone, at least looking at the game from an objective standpoint, can agree that running a lot, don't you think it's more optimal for game design, or more, I guess optimal is not the best word, but wouldn't it be the best game design for you to want to run like 300 quests over the course of 2 lives, and that being the best way to level your character, rather than it just being to repeat one quest over and over and over and over and over? I think everyone can agree that they would rather run a variety of content than just one piece of content. So why not design the game that way? I think that's a good goal. So, and the other thing is, I don't think that it's really that healthy for the game for just one quest or a couple handfuls of quests to be so much more rewarding than the others. And like, I know there's different XP per minute charts and things out there, and I don't think this is nearly as big of an issue as it used to be, because I think that a lot of the quests in the game, not all of them, but there's a lot of quests that are really competitive, especially when it comes to the newer content. It's really competitive in terms of XP per minute, so this is not as big of a deal as it used to be. But I do think some quests are still, much more rewarding in terms of XP per minute, over the course of a couple epic TRs. So, and it's not really that healthy for players to run one quest over and over and over. I don't think that's good long term, because if you are only running one quest over and over and over and over, wouldn't you say the likelihood of getting burnt out in like a couple years and just quitting the game is higher than if you're running a variety of content? I certainly think it is. I don't think it's that healthy for DDO in the long term if we have one quest or just a couple quests that are so much more rewarding. And again, I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm kind of talking about this in terms of just a general design philosophy, I guess I would say, right now. Okay, the next kind of argument of stop worrying about what other players are doing, I think, as I kind of mentioned before, I think that's sort of an oversimplified way of looking at the problem because it's more complex than that. Why is it more complex than that? Because this is not a single player game. It's a MMO. So unless you're one of the I would say probably very few people that only solos and never has ever run a quest ever or never has a desire to run a quest with other people, that argument doesn't apply to you. Because whether you like it or not, if you are grouping with other people, if you play with more people other than yourself, then your enjoyment of DDO objectively is tied to what other people are doing. Again, unless you only solo and never group, but your enjoyment of the game, whether you like it or not, is tied to other people if you do group in any capacity. So while not worrying about what the other player are doing doesn't directly hurt you, it indirectly can. So that's why we can't look at it in terms of just, oh, you do what you want, I do what I want, stop worrying about what other players are doing. Because you have to look at the effects of that, because it can indirectly hurt you. So if, for example, why do other players objectively impact your fun in DDO? Well, because if you wanted to run, say, like a raid like Shroud or something, and no one else in the game wanted to run it because they were all running maybe a handful of more optimal quests, and I know Shroud's a raid, so that's probably not the best example. Maybe I'll say something like, I don't know, Epic House P or something. Say you wanted to run that, but everyone else is running like Wizard King and Spies. It does affect your fun because you don't have any player to run that content with. And while you can say, hey, just solo and run it yourself or throw up an LFM, if everyone in the game is kind of busy doing other stuff and it's only you who wants to do that and no one else joins, you're not playing an MMO anymore. You're playing a single player game. And for players who want to play a multiplayer game with other people and run a variety of content, I think it's fair to point out that while you can run what you want, this is still a multiplayer game. So and there is a finite number of players. So if all the players are encouraged to run one thing and not this other thing, then the players who want to run that other thing are having their fun impacted. So, that's just the way it is. Whether you like that or not, you think that's fair, that other players should be partly responsible for another player's fun. It is objectively that way, whether you would like it to be or not, because it's an MMO and we all play with other players. So unless you're soloing, this is a multiplayer game, and that does require other people to play with you. That's just the fact of the matter. Opportunity cost is a thing. There are only so many players to play the game with. It's just the way it is. Okay, I guess the next argument, if you reduce XP for a quest, players will just grind the next best quest. I think that's a good argument, and I think for some, yes, that is the case. I think that if you replace, say, if you were to reduce the XP of the couple top XP per minute quests that people are grinding for to go through past lives, yes, they will find another 2 or 3 quests to just grind over and over and over every day. But I think that's something that we can change, and I'll get into some ideas in a minute for how we can change that. But I think that we can discourage that to an extent, and I guess I'll go ahead and mention what kind of idea is. My idea is to introduce more sagas and give more rewards for sagas. And so that would encourage players to run a variety of content. If the saga and rewards are really big, and people are encouraged really to run sagas as the go-to way of leveling your character through epic past lives. I think that's a much better way of doing it. That would discourage people more from doing dailies, because instead of your dailies, you would have your saga, your saga trains that you're going through instead of just dailies. So I think that can help a lot. And other people might say, well, how is that better? Because then players will just grind a certain, the most XP efficient saga. Well, I think you should then put a cooldown or some kind of limit on how often they can do that. Maybe have, a 1 week timer, something like that on a saga, so people have to run a variety of sagas. Something like that I think would be fair. And I also would like to see more sagas implemented, and I'll get into that in a minute. Okay, let's get to the next argument, and if you haven't guessed, this is the one I agree with more. And I know this video is probably going to piss some people off, but that's okay, because this is one topic I know on the forums, that thread that I linked, it's not the most civil, and this is something players get really upset about, especially when you start giving opinions about how you'd want to modify the game, because if you have an opinion on how to modify the game, no matter what that opinion is, you're going to change the game in a way that another person doesn't like. And it's not like I'm a developer or anything. I don't have any power to change the game in that respect. But it's like, if you're proposing that, some players perceive that as a threat to the way they play the game. So that's why I think you see all that, like all the passion there on the boards and the people getting upset. So, okay. So the other side of the argument, XP per minute, being as equal as possible is important to encourage quest diversity and to discourage grinding. And again, this is the argument I'd want to agree with, and let me lay out what I would like to see. And I've mentioned it already with the sagas, but I wouldn't want to just see like, oh, let's just go nerf all the best XP quests. No, I wouldn't want to do that. I actually think overall, if anything, the total amount of time it takes to go through an epic past life or just any reincarnation should actually be reduced going forward, not increased. I definitely wouldn't want to see that increased, so I wouldn't want to see just the best XP per minute quest reduced or anything like that. What I would want to see is most quests have their XP increase, and also I would want to see a massive increase to the XP rewards that sagas give, like a lot more. I think that sagas should be the go-to thing for leveling. I really do, because I think that's the best way to encourage diversity of people running diversity and a variety of content, is having really good sagas, really good saga in rewards for XP. And I know they're not bad now, but I don't think they're to the point right now to where you're like, oh man, I gotta run sagas. It's a nice little bonus at the end, but it's not as good as I think it should be. So basically what I would want to see is, let's increase, go through the quest, and the developers have done XP passes before, so this is something I know they've done, and I think they probably want to look at again. But what I would want to see is all the quests, basically look at them, and especially the older epics, a lot of the older epics which really don't have that competitive XP. Let's put those on par with with the newer content, and even with some of the best XP quests in the game. So, I'm not saying make everything as good as Spies and Whiz King and stuff in terms of XP per minute, but I am saying that if there's quests like some of the old epics where you have to, run through the adventure area to get to the quest, some that are more time consuming to get to and longer, let's take that into the equation, and they probably do already, but it seems like it's not quite there for some of the old epics. So I think a lot of the quests, probably most of the quests, I'd want to see increased, and then again, sagas in rewards increase dramatically. And I think again it should be that way, because we should see, if anything, the amount of the ease it is to get through a life, a reincarnation should be easier, just as there are so many more past lives added to the game. There's so many more past lives to go for that it makes sense going forward to make it kind of smaller and smaller going forward, or easier and easier to get through a reincarnation, just so people can catch up quicker to some of the the older players that have been in the game a really long time and have just tons and tons of past lives. Not that I'd want to make it dramatically easier, because those players did work really hard for their past lives, but make it more reasonable to get to, for a new player to come in, to get to the point to match a character, or at least be a little more competitive with a character that might have like 30 past lives, or as completionist or triple completionist or whatever. So let's see. Oh, another thing I would be really cool is like more new sagas, like a raid saga. I think would be really cool, with a really beefy XP gem there at the end. Have every raid in the game be a part of the saga, and have every time a new raid comes out, add it to the saga. Maybe keep it just epic raids. Of course, I guess, let me see. Are there any raids that aren't epic? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. So yeah, basically just make it Saga of all the raids. That'd be great. That would be really cool. It would really encourage raiding again and help people to both raid as even if you, that would be a thing where even if you didn't want to run a raid for its loot, you could still run it for the Saga and get that big beefy XP. So that would be another way to both maybe make going through past lives easier, but at the same time encourage raiding. Because the problem with raiding a lot of the time is once you get the gear or the gear becomes outdated, there's no reason to run the raid. So that could be a reason. That could be a really good improvement, I think. And I think a lot of the high XP quests I'd want to definitely leave alone, like Spies in the House, for example. It has a really beefy XP, but it also is really high effort. You have to do a lot of, there's some puzzles, you have to do a lot of Mario stuff. A lot of people don't run it just because of the Mario stuff. A lot of Mario stuff in that quest. So it's very high effort. So I think it's fair to have a high effort quest give more XP than a quest where you just, something like Lords of Dust where you can just mindlessly run through it and just mash the attack button and not really think. And the same with quests like Mon 5, for example. It's really high effort. It has tons of XP, but it's really high effort. Therefore, it makes sense, I think, to have it have more XP per minute than, say, a low effort quest. Okay, now let's get to the Wiz King thing. And while I would increase the XP, I think the XP should probably be increased for most quests in the game. And I would leave really high XP quests alone, like as I mentioned, Spies in the House. I do think it makes sense to reduce the, to change how Wiz King works. And I know that's going to piss a lot of people off because people, again, for reasons I mentioned in this video, people like running that quest. And I've run it. I ran a lot of Wiz King my last Epic TR. But the thing is, as I've said before, I did it because it was efficient, not because it was fun. And it's good. It's a good thing to try to have opinions to make the game better. And I think that's what I'm doing here. It's just not good game design, again, to encourage players as the most efficient way to get their past lives to run the same, literally, not just a handful of quests, literally the same quest 1,000 times. And I think they can reduce the amount or really increase the XP in other quests to make it more like, instead of just running the one quest, you can get through that past life really fast by running a wide variety of content. And let's be honest, Wiz King functioning as it does discourage running other content when so much XP can be gotten so quickly from those Wizard King optionals. It does take away from running content. I mean, if you see, like when I thought that the just this last quest pack that came out, like you don't see a lot of people running it because other than White Plume Mountain, which has some really good loot, but you don't really see a lot of people running the other quests. And why is that? It's because people are just running like stuff like Wiz King instead, because it's more XP efficient, and a lot of people didn't really want the loot in the other 4 quests. So the thing is, if you want the game to see the game improved or have an opinion on how to improve the game, you're never going to be able to do that in a way that makes everyone happy. Like anytime you change something in a game, it's going to make someone unhappy. But I think with Wiz King, it does make sense, since it's the only quest in the game where it makes sense to grind like this. Yes, you can grind optionals and other quests, but it's kind of a loophole. And let's be honest, it's a loophole the way it functions. And I don't know if the devs will change it, but I wouldn't want to see it change without giving players an equal compensation in terms of making other quests more rewarding. And I think that's something that most players would be willing to trade their, running Wiz King 100 times every life with more XP for running a wide variety of content. I think that's a good change. I think it's a change that makes the game better. The thing is, if you want grouping to be more encouraged, if you want more reasons to run content after it's older and the loot is outdated, these are the kinds of sacrifices you have to make. You have to be willing to give up something. You can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't have Wiz King functioning the way it is and also have good reasons to run older content once the loot's outdated and there's nothing else in terms of gear to get out of it. I mean, if you want, I think that we can make that old kind of content worth it again if there's sagas that have high XP rewards that encourage you to run that older content. So you can't really have your cake and eat it too, because if the case is that Wiz King is still by far the most rewarding, even if you increase the Saga XP, people are still going to run Wiz King. So you can't have it both ways. Okay, so having this opinion, is this me trying to ruin others' fun? Is it me being a jerk? I don't think so, because I'm looking at this from a perspective of wanting to see changes that make DDO more fun. Like, that's my whole thinking here, my objective here. So, and while fun itself is subjective, I do think we can objectively state that the majority of players will subjectively find running a variety of content more fun than just grinding one quest 1,000 times. So I think that makes one subjective definition of fun more important than the other, just because there's more people that hold it, in my view, than hold the latter. So what else do I have to say? I mean, if you can get amazing XP rewards from running sagas instead of running the same quests over and over, I think that's an improvement to the health of the game. I think that makes the game better. And do you really want to play a game where the best route by far to finishing past lives is to run the same quest 1,000 times? Is that a fun game? I mean, wouldn't you rather have the game encourage you to run a wide array of content? I think I would. Okay, I think I've beaten this point to death, but I will finish by saying that while I think there are some people out there who legitimately like to turn their brain off and grind the same quest 1,000 times as a form of relaxation, I think the majority of players would prefer running a variety of content. And it sucks that players out there who legitimately like grinding stuff ad nauseum, like literally like grinding the same. I'm not talking about grinding past lives. I'm talking about literally players who literally like grinding the same quest over and over and over and over and over and over, like 1,000 times. And I know there's some players out there like that, and it sucks that certain changes or having an opinion about certain changes take that away. But realistically, you can't make everyone happy. Sometimes changes are made to help the vast majority that hurt a minority, and it's impossible for me to sit here and have an opinion of any kind of change on DDO at all without impeding on someone else's subjective definition of fun and something and without impeding on someone else playing the game in a way that they feel is the most fun and taking away from that. So yeah, guys, that's my opinion. So I just thought I'd chime in here, and I'm sure a lot of you won't like it, but that's how I feel regardless. And one thing I said when I started this YouTube channel is I'm going to always say what I think. So that's one thing you can get from my videos, is that no matter what I'm saying, I'm always saying what I think. I'm not going to just not say something because some people aren't going to like it. So, but I am interested in hearing other opinions. That's just mine. And if yours is different, it's not wrong. So, please comment below. Let me know what your opinion is. I'd be interested in reading that. So, yeah, guys, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you next time. Take care.